Hello, welcome to week 11 of online learning for microbiology. So this video is just to go over the expectations for this week, your assignments, and then we'll talk about the presentation rubric. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to week 11 on Blackboard, right down here, and you'll see that you have 6 things listed to do. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to watch this video that you're watching right now, haha. And then you're going to read chapter 9 in your lab manual, which is the antibiotics section. And you're going to fill out your Google Doc lab notebook for antibiotics day 1 and day 2 before midnight Saturday. So you should all, in your lab notebook right now, have images of your TSA plates with the zone of inhibition. So you're going to measure the zone of inhibition for each disc, and then you're going to use page 84 in your lab notebook and record whether or not that was sensitive, resistant, or intermediate. So you have a video to help you with that, which you'll see in the next one. So after you read the chapter, you're going to watch the in-class component video. So the in-class component video is 50-50 of me showing you how you would have actually done it in the lab. So it's my hands spreading your microbe on plates and then putting it in incubators, letting it grow up. And then the second half actually walks you through how to measure your zone of inhibitions at home on your computer screen just using the pictures that I post in your lab notebook. Okay, and then when you have measured your zone of inhibition and then referred to page 84 in your lab notebook, you'll have these 2 columns filled out in your table. So you're not done from that. I don't want to see this table in your final lab report. What you need to do is take the information from this table and turn it into a bar graph. So there's another video, and this is listed right here, antibiotic graphs video. So the antibiotic graphs video shows you how to make a basic bar graph like we did for the first section of lab. And then the second half will show you how to label the bar graph with S, R, and I, which stand for sensitive, resistant, and intermediate. So I'm not going to go into any of that stuff right now because you have separate videos. Okay, and then when you have your antibiotic graph due, you're going to also add that into your lab notebook. So you can put it in right after your table, just make some room for it. And then the 6th item that you guys have to do is to start your presentation. So you'll see under the syllabus and schedule that it looks like we only have stuff due on Saturday this week, which is true. Everything is due on Saturday. However, you do need to have your presentation complete by Tuesday and have it shared with me. And that is talked about in week 12, but all of you guys are going to make a presentation and you're going to share it with me. So everyone in the class is viewing your presentation and reading your notes. And then all of you guys have a worksheet to fill out and answer 4 or 5 questions about each individual presentation. So it's imperative that you get this stuff in on time because you're going to slow everyone else down if you don't get your work done on time. So you have all week to do the very light load of antibiotics. So hopefully you use this time to also work on your presentation. So all you need to do for now to get going is just have a blank Google sheet and then share it with just your partner for now and start filling out your slides. So what I want you to do here is write in the speaker notes what you would have actually said in class. So normally speaker notes are good for like a bulleted list and just to remind you of things that you need to talk about while you're presenting. But since we can't present to each other face to face, what I want you guys to do is actually write a lot of stuff down here. So write out what you would actually be saying. Write your script. Don't write bullet points. Don't write little notes of like incomplete sentences. It doesn't need to be a pretty essay or anything, but write down what you would have actually said. And you'll know what you need to say based on your rubric. So look at that real quick. So you'll notice that this rubric is a lot shorter than your first presentation, and that's because you're not going to be graded on things like making eye contact and not looking at the screen and all that stuff, because we're not going to see each other. So you should be setting up your presentation just following the flow of the rubric. So it's pretty much all background information and then discussions. So for background information, you want to focus on the important highlights of your microbe. We don't care about every single test result that you did. It's not going to be interesting. We were all kind of there. We all did it on our own microbes. So just tell us the highlights. Tell us things like if it's gram positive, gram negative, if it needs oxygen to survive, because those are like the key distinguishing factors. Have some images of your microbe, and then make it even more relatable. So tell us why should we know about this microbe? Is it pathogenic for humans? Is it pathogenic for other organisms? Is it non-pathogenic? Is it actually a beneficial microbe? And then you want to go into talking about some primary research articles. So find a primary research article that studies your microbe, or maybe used your microbe as a subject for something. Maybe they found something new about your microbe and it wasn't considered pathogenic before, but then they found it caused, this really strange illness in like only this one creature or something. Okay, and then you want to take an image, like a figure or an actual photograph from that primary research article that you're going to summarize for us, and put it in your PowerPoint. So most primary research articles, if you just Google the citation and then hit like Google Images, then you can find some of their figures. And if you're using the USM database and you find a research article that way, you'll often find the figures on like the side of this screen, and they're able to download. And worst case scenario, you can always screenshot it and then put it in your PowerPoint. So then you want to go into the discussions and elaborate on the environmental conditions of your microbe. So by environmental conditions, I mean, where would you find it in nature? Do you not find it in nature? Do you only find it in a hospital setting? Maybe it's this microbe that only lives in catheters or something. And once you've set up the information that we need to know about where it lives and its kind of microhabitat, then you can pull in the relevance of what we did in lab. So your metabolic test results and even some of your biolog wells, they are environmental conditions that these microbes have to deal with to survive. So remember, your negative wells means that they didn't really deal with it very well and they were not respiring, so there wasn't any microbial activity. And then the purple wells, of course, there was respiration going on, so your bacteria were surviving. So pull in some of these metabolic tests and pull in some of these biolog wells and talk about how these laboratory setting environmental conditions apply to its actual environmental conditions of what it deals with in the real world. And then you want to also summarize what you learned about the antibiotic testing. Maybe pull in a paper of someone researching antibiotic resistance of your microbe, or maybe it isn't resistant to anything. Talk about any contradictions that your biolog plate had versus your metabolic tests, and then state what are some tests that you could have done to get your list of possible microbes down even narrower. So most of you came up with a few different guesses for a genus. But maybe you were looking at the Bergy and you're like, if I had just done like this test and this test, then I really could have distinguished between these two that I had it narrowed down to. So tell us what those ones were and why they would have been important. And then of course you have your bibliography. So you'll notice on this rubric that the things I'm asking you to present on are things that you need to address in your lab report. So your lab report, a big portion of it is to talk about your unknown microbes, environmental conditions, and then you have to pull in 2 or 3 of your metabolic tests and 2 or 3 of your biolog wells and talk about how that relates to its environmental conditions, and then some medical research and antibiotic. So if you do a good job on your presentation and your speaker notes, then you might already have some of the stuff written for your report because they overlap. Okay, so that brings us to everything on your checklist, I believe. Let's just pop down real quick. Yes, so the last thing you need to do is your presentation. So remember that the presentation is incredibly time sensitive, so get going on that early and share it with me before Tuesday of next week. Okay, thank you.